family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
We pulled into the parking lot last night. We had already used our GPS to find the place we wanted to eat dinner. We made our way through town, pulled into the parking lot, and realized in the parking lot was not just the place that we had already chosen to go for dinner. In fact, there were like 5 restaurants in the same parking lot, all these buildings next to each other. As we stepped out of the vehicle, I turned to the crew and I said, "So what do you want?" We had planned to go to restaurant A, and 2 of the other people on the crew went, "I don't know." And one of them said, "Well, I really don't like that one," which ironically was where we had chosen to go. And another one just started making a beeline for another restaurant. Well, since everybody else was ambiguous, guess where we went? Went to the other restaurant. A little pricier, turned out okay. Good food, good time, quiet place, it all worked well. Let me ask you this though, how often do you come into a new year like we're in right now, and you realize, I had something in mind until something else came up. Another opportunity came up. Another option came up. And when that new option came up, it distracted me. It derailed me from the vision that I had set out to accomplish to begin with. Everything that I had invested emotionally, spiritually, financially, maybe even physically into this first vision is now in danger because, well, options. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I don't know if that's ever happened to you. Maybe it was at a restaurant. Maybe it was a job option. Maybe it was a promotion opportunity, but you realized when the promotion was offered, it may not be the only option I have. Maybe in fact, if where I work wants to promote me, somebody else would want to hire me. And suddenly this thing begins to happen in the back of your mind, the psychology that has held you so hard, so tight, so gripped into committed behavior, committed action, committed execution, begins to unravel a little bit as your emotions become somewhat fragmented. And I don't know if you've noticed that or not, but there are a lot of times in a relationship, with a job, with a significant other, with a friend, that these little opportunities come up that run counter to. And maybe they're not even going in opposite directions. They're just other opportunities that take up a little bit of time and a little bit of energy, and suddenly you become emotionally unentangled with the opportunity that's already in front of you. Some people in the corporate world would call this vision leak or vision leakage. It's when the commitment to the accomplishment that's in front of you gets distracted by the little problems of life. When you lose the focus on the most important thing and you start dealing with the little problems. Now, it really is a mindset issue. And in many cases in life, there are those classes of people, and I don't mean this to be a derogatory thing, it's just a reality thing. It's the way you train and discipline your mind. There are classes of people who spend the majority of their life focused on the smaller issues. I heard someone in British Parliament recently say, when people are having to choose between poverty and climate change, they're much more concerned about their daily bread, whether or not they're going to be able to feed and clothe their children and educate their children or provide a better future for their children, than they are about climate change. He went on to make the point that if the entire British island sank into the ocean, it would make a 2% impact on the world's climate change. But there are some people who have abandoned everything for the mission of climate change. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad or a pro or a con. I'm pointing out the fact that when there are other opportunities, when there are distractions, when there are other things to tend to, we tend to lose sight of the one thing that we had determined earlier on was the most important thing. We tend to lose the energy, the emotional attachment, the commitments, the willingness to sacrifice everything to pull it off that came along with the first vision to begin with. Now, if you've struggled with that as a leader, you probably also have struggled with people on your team who have a similar struggle. You ask them to carry out a task, and they realize in doing that task that, well, there are 3 other steps to getting the task done. What they thought was an assignment for a project that would just happen and you'd be done with it really is going to require a longer-term commitment. And it's easy in those kinds of assignments to lose the focus of the big picture, the end game, the big goal, and instead get caught up in trying to accomplish each of the little tasks or projects along the way. It's common. In fact, I remember when I was fresh out of high school and just before I joined the military, I had a boss that scolded me one time because he would ask me to build an end cap in the grocery store. He's like, I just need corn on this side and beans on that side, and we're going to put macaroni and cheese in the middle. And by the time he was done, I had resurfaced the floor in that space. I had cleaned up the shelves around it. I had made sure that everything was faced on both sides. I didn't just roll out a stack of cans and another stack of cans and a stack of boxes and call it done. For me, I took pride in the whole thing. I wanted people to walk by and go, that's the best end cap in the store. And his chiding of me was, he said, I asked you to do a task. Put the stuff at the end of the aisle. And you made it a project. You've spent half the day on this. And I'm like, well, yeah, I had to take down the one that was there, clean up the mess behind it, bring in the new stuff. You want it to look good, right? We had 2 totally different visions of what the end project would look like, which means we had 2 totally different visions of how it would be accomplished. If you lead a team of people, you probably have people on your team who have the same challenge. They don't clearly see the vision and every step in it. Now, there are places where that's good, because your ability to lead them might be the ability to stand off with a somewhat ambiguous task or goal to accomplish, to watch them and how they process that task, that project, or that goal, so that you can understand whether or not they're going to be somebody who's easily distracted going forward. We've been watching Fire Country TV series recently, and on a recent episode, one of the commanders on scene offered the opportunity for another firefighter to be an assistant on-scene commander to kind of see what that role is like. And 2 or 3 times, the firefighter made decisions to act rather than delegate. To act rather than delegate. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? A lot of people would say, well, yeah, I want my leaders to act. I want my leaders to be capable and competent to dive in. I want them to be willing to do the work. Well, they wouldn't be the leader in a fire ground if they hadn't already been a competent firefighter. But when you take the incident commander and put them back in the grit, where there's a chance that they get injured, get distracted, get hurt, get drawn off away from, then the question is, who's the incident commander at that point? Who's in charge of making sure that all the little projects are running when the incident commander is running only one project? See, that's what tends to happen in leadership. And unless you allow that free rein, if you will, for someone to know what their assignment is, know what the projects, the goals, the vision are that they've been handed over, and then also experience the distraction of multiple opportunities. Sometimes the hard part of leadership is stepping back and letting someone else accomplish the vision, complete the task, finish the project in a way that gives them a whole lot of recognition and honor. And when they get that recognition or honor as a leader, Your role was simply to support them in getting there. A jealous, insecure leader has a really hard time moving that spotlight to the other person and saying, they did it. They did the whole thing. We assigned the project. They took it on. They did it well. They minimized the distractions. They organized their team. They pulled it off. Wow, that's awesome. An insecure leader has a really hard time handing over that credit. A good leader, though, says, I know what the overall vision is. And while this individual is getting a lot of accolades for that project or task completed, it's one of many parts in the overall vision. Now, the other part is when that insecure leader has to step in and say, I'm going to finish that project because I need the accolades. I'm going to finish this project. No. I'm going to finish that project because that one's going to have more accolades. I need not just to win the Nobel Peace Prize. I also need to be on the front cover of every magazine along the way. And suddenly all the distractions of publicity and notoriety and success actually stop the work from getting done. Now, let me add one other aspect to that too, because this is common, especially with someone who feels like, and this is one of my challenges, I've always had a bit of a hero complex. And so that hero complex means I love to swoop in and make things right when they're not going right for somebody else. Sometimes to my own peril, sometimes at my own risk of life. It's part of the reason I became a firefighter and still volunteer as a firefighter. I love being able to help other people. It lights me up in a way that leadership lights me up, but being able to help other people in the moment of crisis, I guess it's kind of if you dug into the psychology of it, an extension of being a people pleaser. But being a hero is a big deal for me. So if you take that being a hero, being a savior, being a helper, coming in out of nowhere and doing great things for other people, and you start stacking that up in a life where there are a lot of people around you who need a lot of help, it's really easy to lose the tunnel vision that leads to success. The tunnel vision that leads to success says, like my dog, when she's looking for her ball, her little nose and her little tail go into full-time, full-speed action. She will tear the world apart to find her ball so that we can play catch. She will knock things over. She will push them out of the way. She will drag furniture across the room as long as she gets that ball. She has one focus, and nothing is going to get in the way of finding her ball. And once she's found the ball, she's also not going to leave you alone until you take the ball from her, sometimes with quite a battle, and then throw it for her. Mom seems to be the only one in the house who will bring the ball to and drop it on the couch next to her. Everybody else has to fight to get the ball from her and throw it. That's like part of the game. But she is tunnel visioned and laser focused on the vision that is the ball. Nothing else matters when the ball is in play. Many leaders can't stay focused like that. They're after the ball, but then they see, oh, there's another toy. Oh, there's another opportunity. Oh, there's a football. Oh, there's another lap I could jump in. And when we're driven as leaders to be someone who helps others, and we lose sight of the focus of the ball, we lose the tunnel vision, we lose the laser focus, what tends to happen is we spend our life with our head on a swivel, constantly looking for a place to help someone out. Was that a bad thing? No, it's a good character of a human to always be looking for a way to help others. But as a leader, as a business owner, it can be very cumbersome to help hundreds of people, dozens of people, multiple people, and still get your tasks done. If the vision that you have is to help hundreds of people, then narrow down how you will help them to a few accomplishable goals, projects, or tasks. Maybe you need to scale them by priority. Which one has to happen first before the other ones can happen? I've been on a series of calls lately that honestly, because of my spiritual background, my own research and devotion to my faith as a Christian, I have spent a whole lot of time hearing people say, poverty is the way Jesus lived his life. And so, you shouldn't be craving money. You shouldn't want money. And it was very challenging for me to move into an arena where people who have a lot of money have a pursuit of money, and yet balance that with how do I do good in this life and not become greedy. And then I watched the work of someone like Tim Tebow, who has literally invested from the millions that he's earned, millions more back into the project of his heart. He has a vision. He has a mission. He's helping tens of thousands of people become free of sex trafficking. That is no small feat. There are millions of ways to do that project. To be laser focused on how you intend to accomplish it, that's complicated. It's a lot more complicated than you think. You know what it is more than that, though? Expensive. Oh, yeah. It's costly. It'll cost you friends. It'll cost you time. It'll cost you emotional energy. The minute you dive into the life of someone who has been destroyed, utterly destroyed because of sex trafficking, you get an emotional connection to the humans that are in that plight, and it can destroy you internally if you're not strong. It'll destroy your friend relationships when other people are like, yeah, that's kind of like the opposite of the Epstein thing, but I don't want to be anywhere near either one of them. I want to pretend like neither one of those things happen. And so friendships will go by the wayside. You'll create some political enemies. But more than all of that, you're going to spend a whole lot of money. You're going to sacrifice a whole lot of money, a whole lot of time, and a whole lot of emotional energy if that's your vision. The challenge for a lot of people is they would see that project and then realize that there are 90,000 peripheral projects as well that kind of go along with that. Some of them you have to stack them up sequentially, because if you can't accomplish one, then you can't accomplish two, then you can't accomplish three, and your big vision falls apart. But none of it happens until you find a way to make or earn or raise a whole lot of capital to pull it off. Well, there are a lot of projects, tasks, visions, goals in my mind, in my emotions, in my commitments that I look at. I really want to see people come out of poverty. And I realize that's not just an inner city problem. There are as many homeless, uneducated, ill-opportuned people in Appalachia, in rural America, as there are in the inner cities. It's not a race issue. It's a mindset issue. The problem isn't the color of skin. The problem is the way they think. How do I know? Because I used to think that way. And because I know that, I also know getting a new way of thinking takes discipline. It takes sacrifice. It takes hard work. It takes willingness to surrender that your ideas maybe haven't been perfect all along. It also takes a mentor, a teacher, someone who has changed their mind and said, let me share some ideas with you may not have thought about. Well, that's no different than evangelism or discipleship. It's really all about changing your mind, realizing the things in your life that don't work, and replacing those with things that do. It doesn't seem that complicated. It's a simple thing to do, but it's not easy to do. When you start putting all that together, here's what you find. There are a whole lot of small fires. As a firefighter, one of our biggest challenges are those little fires that fall outside. In Hood County, and Parker County, just south of where we live, there were hundreds of thousands of acres that burned last year, or the last couple of years, because of the wild West Texas winds blowing into the metropolitan area and grass fires with dry ground. And it's so easy to start a grass fire. But you get out there where you got 100 acres of hayfield, and it catches fast, and it burns fast. But what's most dangerous is when the wind changes directions. Or you're fighting a fire, and you're fighting the head of the fire, and suddenly another fire breaks out, 100 yards the other direction of you, and they're all burning to the same place. Leadership vision is exactly the same. You may have taken on the task head on. You're looking at the major problem that you want to solve, not realizing sometimes that little wildfires are going to crop up all around you. Little problems are going to crop up around you. And some of them you have to solve before you can get back to the big one. They're projects in the way of the success of your big vision. Some of them need another assignment. They need somebody else to be delegated to handle them. And as the leader, it is your job to determine, Am I staying on focus with this one project in order to accomplish the vision? Or do I need to take time from this to go solve that other problem? Because if I don't solve that problem, this one will never get solved. If I don't solve the problem of stacking the cash to get the work done because I'm ready and willing to pay it out of my pocket rather than asking everybody else to put into it, am I ready and willing to give my money back? When I heard Grant Cardone say on a call the other day, he said, listen, last year we gave over 1 million checks. My goal, though, is to give 10 million. Now, everybody talks about the redistribution of wealth. But tell me what politician, business leader, or anybody else you've ever heard say, my goal is to give money to 10 million people. It's a whole different ballgame. But guess what? You can't give money away if you're not making money hand over fist. So now the question you need to ask yourself is, if you were one of the 10 million he gave a check to, how are you going to multiply that money like a seed into a new orchard as opposed to just spending it? It's that mindset issue, right? Do I get my tax return and put new tires on the car? Do I get my tax return and invest on something that will return money? Do I get my tax return and take a trip to Disney? All your choices, all of them you're free to make. Just remember, when the vision is in front of you, there will be hundreds of opportunities to do something else that will siphon off your energy, your emotion, your finances, your time, and your mind. You're going to have to choose to stay focused on those. And as a leader, you've also got to be really ready to delegate those challenges and opportunities that need to be addressed, and to help those that you lead recognize when to stay on task and when to divert attention. That's all on you, because you're the leader. And that's what you do. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.
Thank you.